Right, so we are looking at lesson 1 in the design thinking and problem solving set of lesson plans. In this lesson 1, they're identifying the problem, which is sort of the first step in the design thinking process. In this first lesson, the objective is to get learners to think critically about the world around them, to identify problems that they find, to maybe think of things could do with improving, or basically things that they worry about. For this lesson, you will need a large piece of paper or card and smaller papers, along with Croquis and the design thinking booklet. So, in the beginning, you're going to start off with a group discussion, which is also a good way to start a lesson. You're going to talk with learners about what makes somebody a good problem solver. A lot of them might have a mom or dad or granny and grandpa who are really good at solving problems. What makes them a good problem solver? The truth is, there are problems all around us. And a lot of inventions and apps have been developed because somebody saw a problem that needed solving and found a way to solve it. You need to explain to learners that today they're going to have a look at their lives and their community and their country, and they are going to think very carefully about problems in those areas or things that they would like to improve on. This first lesson is just about brainstorming, so learners can think of as many ideas as they can. And what I found is when I did this lesson, the learners in my class really surprised me with the level of understanding they had about their community and their country and things they were worried about and thought could be improved. Once you've had the initial discussion, you can send learners off in their groups with a worksheet from the design thinking booklet. On this worksheet, they need to identify problems in their lives, in their community, and in their country. While they're working, you can walk around to get them to share some ideas with you. It's also really interesting to point out the similarities and differences between what different children struggle with and what they view as problems. Once they've had some time to work on it, you're going to give each of them 3 pieces of paper, and they're going to choose their favorite problem from their life, their community, and their country, and write it on the piece of paper. When all the groups are finished, you're going to take those pieces of paper and create a class mind map of all the problems that they've identified. They can explain the problems as they do this, maybe their perspective, or who in their group particularly struggled with it. And then you can have a look at the similarities and differences as a class on the whole. Sometimes people view things as a problem that other people don't really see as an issue. But often there's a lot of similarities between the problems that we face. So my learners did a digital version of this on a website called Padlet, where they came up with ideas of problems that affect themselves, their community, and their country. And then they could upvote each other's or comment on them. I was blown away with the relevancy of the problems, with the perspective of the learners, and I was so surprised at the problems that they viewed in these different environments. There were obviously lots of things that were in common, like waking up in the morning, and there were lots of things that were different. For example, one of the girls was very anxious about meeting new people, where it wasn't something that the whole class struggled with. And then they were able to identify problems in their communities and in their countries. And I was very surprised at what perspective they had on the different issues that we faced in our country. For example, economic issues, food shortages. It was really interesting gaining the learner's perspective on how they view these problems. At the end of the lesson, you can link this up to real life by talking about how inventions came about because sometimes people saw a need or a problem that needed solving. This link is particularly to South African inventions, but you can find a video on inventions that come from wherever you are. It's really nice for them to see inventions that particularly come from their place that they live in, because they don't always think or know these specific inventions. And then you can talk about what issue or problem these inventions solve. For example, Google Maps was a solution to people having to read real maps. And it became something that was indispensable to many people. Not only finding directions, but getting updates about traffic reports and finding the quickest way from A to B. Now it's your turn. You are going to print out the worksheet or fill it in digitally, and you are going to identify problems in your life, in your community, and in your country. Try and think in the perspective of things that maybe children would identify or the learners in your class would find relevant. And really try to think of things that are relevant in your specific community, in your country, and in your life. When you're finished, take a photo or a screenshot and hand it in a message. Keep a hold of it because we're going to need it later.